Have you ever had a moment of déjà vu that felt too real? A moment where you were absolutely certain you had lived a specific conversation before, or walked into a room that shouldn't feel familiar, but does. Or perhaps, you have experienced a sudden, chilling sensation that the world around you, the traffic, the buildings, the people speaking on the news is nothing more than a sophisticated stage set, a backdrop that, if you were to push hard enough against it, might tear open to reveal something else entirely. We often dismiss these feelings. We call it stress. We call it an overactive imagination. But what if it's not? What if that sensation is actually a signal? A warning light on the dashboard of your consciousness, telling you that the program you are running is essentially fake. Today we are going to talk about a man who didn't just suspect this. He saw it, he mapped it, and he tried to warn us about it decades before concepts like the Matrix or simulation theory were part of our vocabulary. We are talking about the visionary writer and philosopher Philip K. Dick. While the world knew him as a science fiction author, the mind behind Blade Runner and Total Recall, he was, in secret, a mystic of the modern age. He believed that what we call reality is an interface, a distraction generated to keep us asleep, but he also believed there was a way out, a way to wake up. The year is 1977. The location is Metz, France. A science fiction convention is underway. The audience is packed with fans expecting to hear about spaceships, androids, and distant galaxies. Philip K. Dick takes the stage, but he doesn't talk about his latest novel. He doesn't talk about fiction at all. He looks at the crowd and drops a bombshell. He says, "We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed, and some alteration in our reality occurs." Imagine the silence in that room. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was proposing that our history, our memories, and our physical world are fluid, subject to revision by an unseen programmer. He claimed that he had remembered a different life, a different timeline, and that the world we live in is a superposition of realities. Dick suggested that time is not a straight line moving from the past to the future. Instead, he argued that time is like a reel of tape that can be stopped, rewound, and erased. He believed that the empire, a force of control and oppression, ever truly ended. It just changed its scenery. The Roman Empire became the modern political state. The prison of stone became a prison of the mind. Why does this matter to you, right now, sitting in front of your screen? Because Dick's theory explains the deep, gnawing emptiness that so many of us feel in modern society. We feel disconnected because we are interacting with a simulation rather than the source. We chase material goals, we follow social scripts, and we consume endless content, yet we feel like we are running on a treadmill. That is the black iron prison he spoke of. It's not a jail you can see, it's a jail of perception. Let's go deeper into this concept of the fake reality. Philip K. Dick proposed that God, or the ultimate form of consciousness, is constantly trying to break into this simulation to wake us up. He called this the zebra principle, a form of camouflage. The divine intelligence mimics the environment so perfectly that we do not see it until it wants to be seen. Think of it like a video game. You're the character running through the level. You are worried about your score, your inventory, your next mission. You are completely absorbed in the game mechanics. But suddenly, the screen flickers. A pixel drops out. For a microsecond, you see the code behind the wall. You remember the player holding the controller. Dick argued that these moments are not hallucinations. They are glimpses of the true reality breaking through the false reality. He believed that suffering often comes from our attachment to the fake world, the simulation. We pour our energy into maintaining a construct that isn't real, and that energy is drained away from us. Have you ever felt exhausted by the sheer effort of being yourself in society? That exhaustion is spiritual. It is the fatigue of maintaining an avatar. When you begin to understand Dick's perspective, you stop taking the drama of the world so seriously. You realize that the anxiety, the fear, and the pressure are part of the script. And if it's just a script, you don't have to recite your lines perfectly. You can start to improvise. This brings us to the core of his message, which is remarkably empowering. If this is a simulation, then you are not merely the character on the screen. You are the consciousness observing it. Dick spoke of an experience he had in 1974, which he called the 3rd of February 74. He was hit by a beam of pink light that transferred information directly into his mind. Whether you believe this was a literal event or a psychological break is irrelevant. The insight remains valid. Information is living. The universe is made of information, and we are receivers. Most of us are tuned to the mainstream reality station. This station plays fear, division, consumerism, and linear time 24/7. But there are other stations. Dick believed that by paying attention to coincidence, what Jung would call synchronicity, though we won't dwell on him today, we can tune into a different frequency. When coincidence happens, it is a glitch in the matrix. It is the programmer winking at you. It is a sign that the rigid laws of cause and effect are not as solid as they seem. In the next part of this video, we are going to explore how you can use these glitches to navigate your life, and how to tell the difference between the false world that drains you and the true world that revitalizes you. We will discuss the android mentality living on autopilot and how to deactivate it. To understand how to escape the trap, we must first understand what we have become inside it. Philip K. Dick was obsessed with a single, terrifying question throughout his life. It wasn't what is out there. It was what is human. In his novels, the difference between a human and an android and artificial human is often impossible to tell from the outside. They look the same, they speak the same, they have jobs and memories. But there is a fundamental difference, and understanding this difference is the key to your spiritual survival. Dick did not write about androids to predict the future of robotics. He wrote about them to describe the present state of humanity. To him, an android was a person who had allowed themselves to become a machine, a biological machine that reacts to stimuli but does not truly feel. Think about your own life for a moment. How much of your day is spent on autopilot? You wake up, you check your phone, you commute, you perform your tasks, you say the polite things you are supposed to say. When you are in that state, you are predictable. You are governed by the laws of cause and effect. If someone insults you, you get angry. If you see an ad for a product, you feel desire. If the news tells you to be afraid, you feel fear. You are running a script. In Dick's view, when we live like this, we are part of the simulation. We become part of the background scenery for the few who are actually awake. This is a hard truth to swallow. We like to think we are the main characters, but the black iron prison, Dick's name for the illusionary reality we inhabit, relies on us being asleep at the wheel. The prison walls are not made of bars. They are made of habits. They are made of the unquestioned assumption that the way things are is the way they must be. Dick proposed that there is an ancient force, an empire of control, that never truly ended. He famously wrote, "The empire never ended." He meant that the structures of oppression, mental, spiritual, and physical, that existed in ancient times are still here, just overlaid with a modern skin. We think we are free because we have technology and choices in the supermarket, but our consciousness is still bound by the same old limitations. We are trapped in linear time, and this brings us to one of his most mind-bending concepts, orthogonal time. We are taught that time is a straight line, past, present, future. You can't change the past, and the future hasn't happened yet. But Dick experienced time differently. He envisioned two kinds of time. There is linear time, which is the repetitive cycle where nothing truly changes, the hamster wheel. And then there is orthogonal time, or sideways time. Imagine you are driving down a long, straight highway that is linear time. You pass the same scenery over and over. But orthogonal time is the ability to turn off the highway. It is a timeline that runs at a right angle to our normal perception. Dick believed that true change, true novelty, and true divinity enter our world from this sideways direction. When you have a sudden epiphany, a moment of pure inspiration, or a drastic shift in perspective that changes your life in an instant, you have touched orthogonal time. You have stepped out of the script. The simulation cannot account for genuine creativity or genuine love. Those things break the code. This is why empathy was so central to his philosophy. For Dick, empathy was the only thing an android could not simulate. An android can simulate intelligence, it can simulate polite conversation, but it cannot simulate the ability to feel the suffering of another being as its own. Empathy is the ability to merge your consciousness with another. It is a violation of the boundaries of the separate self. In a simulation designed to keep us isolated and fearful, empathy is a weapon, it is a glitch. When you stop acting out of self-interest and act out of pure compassion, you become unpredictable to the system. You stop being a reflex machine and start being a living soul. You might be asking, okay, but how do I apply this? Start by observing the android in yourself. Catch yourself when you are reacting mechanically. When you are doom-scrolling on social media, you are in the android state. You are feeding data to the system. When you repeat a political opinion just because you heard it on TV, you are in the android state. The goal is to reclaim your agency. Philip K. Dick believed that the true God or the true reality is constantly trying to communicate with us through symbols and trash. He said that God does not speak from the golden clouds, he speaks from the gutter. He speaks through a piece of trash blowing in the wind, a graffiti tag on a wall, a random sequence of numbers. Why? Because the simulation ignores the trash. The system focuses on the important, the loud, the powerful. So the divine hides in the unimportant, the quiet, the discarded. To wake up, you must stop looking at what the world tells you is important and start looking at what is right in front of you. You must look for the small irregularities. This requires a shift in energy. You have to pull your energy back from the big story, politics, celebrity culture, the global drama, and focus it on your immediate reality. The more energy you feed into the simulation, the stronger it gets. The more energy you keep for your own awareness, the thinner the veil becomes. We are living in a time where the pressure to be an android is higher than ever. Algorithms predict our behavior better than we know ourselves. But there is a spark inside you that cannot be predicted. Dick called it the plasma. It is the living information of the universe. In the final part of this journey, we will talk about how to ignite that plasma. We will discuss the ultimate purpose of this simulation. Is it a prison, or is it a school? And how do you finally, truly, wake up? If the world is a simulation and we are often sleepwalking through it like biological machines, a terrifying question arises. Why? Why would such a system exist? Is it a punishment, a cage, or is it something else entirely? Philip K. Dick struggled with this question until his final days. At times, he viewed the Black Iron Prison as a trap set by a malevolent force to keep us enslaved. But as his visions deepened, his perspective shifted. He began to see the simulation not just as a prison, but as a chrysalis, a testing ground. He believed that we are not merely static observers, we are incomplete gods. We are sparks of the divine consciousness that have been fragmented and thrown into matter. We are here to undergo a process of alchemy. The pressure, the suffering, the confusion, these are not design flaws of the simulation. They are the friction required to wake us up. Think of a seed buried in the earth. To the seed, the soil is a prison. It is dark, heavy, and suffocating. But that pressure is exactly what triggers the shell to crack open so life can emerge. Dick suggested that we are in a similar state. The Empire presses down on us to force us to evolve. If life were perfect, easy, and purely pleasurable, we would remain asleep forever. We would remain comfortable androids. This leads to the concept of anamnesis. This is a Greek word that means unforgetting or rewritten. Dick believed that learning isn't about acquiring new information from the outside. It is about remembering what we already know deep within our souls, but have been made to forget. The simulation relies on amnesia. It relies on you forgetting where you came from. It wants you to identify 100% with your job title, your bank account, your social status, and your body. But have you ever felt a profound sense of homesickness, even when you were sitting in your own living room? A feeling that you are an expatriate from a country you can't locate on a map. Dick argued that this alienation is actually a good sign. It proves you don't belong to the simulation. If you fit in perfectly with a sick society, you are sick. If you feel like a stranger, it is because you are waking up. You are beginning to remember the true world that exists beyond the orthogonal turn of time. So, how do we trigger this anamnesis? How do we break the amnesia? It comes back to the signal, the plasma, the living information. Dick believed that the true reality is constantly broadcasting a signal of freedom, love, and truth. But the simulation creates noise, distraction, fear, hate to jam that signal. To tune in, you must become a quiet receiver. This is where the spiritual practice comes in. Though Dick wasn't a guru in the traditional sense, he was a man who sat late at night, listening to the silence, questioning everything. He realized that the way out of the maze is not to run faster, but to stop running. When you stop chasing the illusions of the future, the promotion, the perfect relationship, the someday I will be happy narrative, you collapse the linear time. You arrive in the now, and in the now the simulation is weak. In the now you have power. Dick left us with a hauntingly beautiful idea. The universe is not made of atoms, it is made of stories. And we have been trapped in a bad story. A story of war, scarcity, and death. But because we are fragments of the divine consciousness, we have the power of the author. We can rewrite the script, not by fighting the old reality with violence that just feeds the empire, but by dreaming a new one into existence through our actions. Every time you choose kindness over cruelty, you rewrite the code. Every time you choose creation over consumption, you rewrite the code. Every time you choose to trust your intuition over the fear-mongering of the media, you dissolve a bar of the prison cell. The tragedy of Philip K. Dick's life was that he saw the truth so clearly that it nearly broke him. He died just before the world caught up to his visions, just before Blade Runner was released. But his message is more alive today than ever. We are standing on the precipice he saw from a distance. The technology to simulate reality is in our pockets. The ability to manipulate perception is in the hands of corporations. The empire is stronger than ever, but so is the resistance. And the resistance is you. Realize that you are not the reflection in the mirror. You are the observer behind the eyes. You are the glitch in the system. You are the variable that the computer cannot predict. The reality that Philip K. Dick revealed is that the walls are only solid if you believe they are. The moment you realize it's a stage set, the play changes. The fear evaporates. And what is left? As he famously said, reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. What doesn't go away? Love doesn't go away. Truth doesn't go away. The spark of the divine inside you doesn't go away. Everything else, the money, the status, the anxiety, the politics, that is just smoke. It is time to wave away the smoke. It is time to stop acting like a machine and start living like a creator. The simulation is waiting for your command. The exit door is not in the sky, it is in your heart. Wake up. The movie is ending, and your real life is about to begin.